Child, not Jabari thought he was getting him another homebody, honey. In fact, Vern is I'm gonna be where I'm gonna be body. Y'all, let's get into Ready to Love, Make a Move, episode 5. So, Question Crew, we are back in the mix, and we are back on the fevered pitch of Ashley and Kirsten. Are they going to make it? Are they not? Is she dismissing him? Is she not? They've been arguing back and forth, child. And Ashley is stressing out the situation more in the dramatic, as the world turns fashion, honey. And she has decided that she is, in fact, going to keep him. She hugs him. She says they get along. She likes him. She'd like to stay in touch. They hug. She gives him a fake kiss. She says that she appreciates that he kissed her in a very sweet way, despite the fact that he did not get a kiss on the lips from her. She says that she's not worried at all. He has the energy and the sex appeal that she desires, honey, just not the chemistry, because I definitely don't think he's interested. This will definitely crash and burn. Meanwhile, in the mix, we got Tamika going back outside with them stovepipe shoulders, honey, talking to Zadia's man about his outfit. And when I just looked at both of them, I said, neither one of these people can give each other fashion advice. So I'm not really sure why she was asking him about his clothes. It was just like, where is this conversation going? And let's just head it to the local Nordstrom so you can both get a personal shopper. We didn't even need this moment. So we move on, honey, and Sharice is finally seeing the light with Eric Adams, honey. Her in the city of New York. You hear me? She feels like Maurice is not just, he's just not pursuing her. And he just tries to give this like smooth, too cool for school energy. And Sharice is over it, honey. She has met Chocolate Daddy and she is into him 110%. He's finer than Eric Adams and he actually talks to her. You can tell Eric really wasn't expecting it to end. And she lets him know, like, look, I appreciate the fact that we connect, but honestly, I just don't see you pursuing me. And I'm too grown and too fly to be waiting for somebody to tell me that he likes me. Like, check the box, yes or no, sir, but you're not even putting it on the loose leaf paper. And so Sharice basically says that she's done. And honey, why did she dismiss him and said, thank you for your time? It very much gave the interview was over. And Eric Adams couldn't be more shocked, honey. He scrolls on out the door and he says that, I didn't expect this coming. I just thought I would be here longer, but she gonna miss me. And sir, we couldn't watch you move fast enough. I was so glad Sharice finally saw the light with him. He just wasn't worth her time. And I don't understand anybody not putting any energy into liking somebody. If you are enjoying them, you like their company, let that person know how you feel. But being too fly to even try to engage with this woman, sir, you were not it from the door. Now, back indoors, Ashley is fixing the ladies a crab boil. And when I tell you, I love Ashley. Ashley is the kind of friend you love on vacation one. She's that one that makes breakfast and she'll cook for everybody. And I just love that. I just came back from a girls trip not that long ago. When I tell you, these are the friends you need that friend that's going to cook for everybody and just make sure everybody eats. If y'all like in an Airbnb or something like that, of course, you want to do a really nice dinner a couple of nights. I think we had a friend, she kind of made breakfast every morning, but we kind of went out to eat every night, during that week. Especially because we were on an island and we really wanted to just enjoy the food there. And then we had a private chef one night. It was nice. It was perfect. It was exactly what we wanted. Anyway, Sharice is saying that after she dumped Eric Adams last night, the mayor came calling, honey. He stepped out of the blue and decided he was going to try to step it up. He doesn't want to be left out of her mix of men to think about. And he has decided that he wants to take her on a tour of New Orleans. He wants to be her tour guide while she's in the city of Nola. And I do not like men like this. Like, once you get dismissed, now you want to step up and speak to me. But before that, you couldn't be bothered to even offer the lady anything more than just your dry energy and eating up her food. It was so corny to me. And Ashley said that Don, her man that she dismissed, has decided to do the same thing. Now, at least with Don, I feel like he was giving Ashley attention and time. They just had an issue with communication in terms of like texting and DMing and all of that. And I felt like he wanted to kind of course correct right then and there, but Ashley just didn't feel safe. And she kind of was taken in by Kirsten a bit. And I think just mindset wise, she didn't go for what it is. She said now that her and Don talk all the time and text consistently, but at this point, she's kind of used Kirsten as her keeper. They all discussed the men, how hard they have been pursuing them after they decided to leave them. And now they're wanting to step it up. Speaking of stepping it up, Tamika finally shows up well dressed, and I have to say she looked really nice. She's clean and all white and very fly, and she let us know that the ladies' besties are actually coming in town. We'll be helping them to make a decision. The BFF equals really the person I was cool with from the last season. And we see the door opening and in arrives a bunch of older cast members from previous seasons of Ready to Love who were on the show with these same ladies. So Camille is here for Zadia, Liz is here for Vernisha, LJ is here for Charisse, and Stormy is here for Ashley. Or is she? Now, the ladies are super excited to see each other. They're ecstatic. They are in complete joy to see friends that they've become cool with since the show. And, we see Zadia and Camille, who became very close. And we remember them from on the show becoming close by the end of the show, even if it was under the worst circumstances. And they're still close to this day. Liz is there with Renisha. And Charisse even mentions that her and LJ became close during the season, which I didn't even remember in Miami, but they do show a scene where he comforted her and they continue to be cool because they both live in that city. I did not see where Stormy and Ashley had become really cool. And of course, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute because some stuff came out. I know. So, it was interesting to see, but it was nice to give, the ladies a nice little surprise and having somebody that knows them a little bit best. Zadia even mentions that Camille calls her little sister and that they've grown very close. But, sometimes Camille could be too much. And we know that, honey, from when we watch DC. But Camille is also just extremely dramatic and tries to be comedic, and that's part of the flow of who she is as a teacher, I think, and also just naturally. So Zadia does say that Camille does know her very well, and she thinks that she can help her pick somebody out. So we're hoping that that's the dynamic that we see with these individuals, that these people are going to be here to test out their feelings about the person that they've chosen, and if this person really is a keeper.
Hey y'all, support this channel by smashing that like button. Your likes not only make my day, but they also tell YouTube that you also enjoy this content. Also, don't forget to hit the notification button. That way you can be alerted as soon as I drop a new episode. Thanks.
So first up, we got Zadia and Camille meeting with the mop top, honey. And Zadia is concerned that Camille might be a little too much for Cameron. Honey, she was a little too much for us in DC. She's a little too much at the table. She was a little too thirsty for Cornelius. But honestly, honey, he chose her. They still together. It is what it is. Craziness works out sometimes. Could do a flashback to when Camille was at the table drinking a little on that little vacation weekend, if y'all remember. And Camille is cursing out different ladies at the table because they're essentially saying that she locked in so early with Cornelius and locked him in so tight that when other women talk to him, Camille acts funny and that it was bothering them. And it was to the point that, even in the house, Camille would make little sounds or just do all types of weird catty things around them that didn't give Cornelius a chance to see if there were other women there. They really should have both self-eliminated a long time ago and wasted everybody's time. And eventually they did eliminate him. And then she threw herself at the scenario because she's like, if he goes home, I go home. But anyway, they saw her cussing them out. And, Camille can run people off. So Sadia is concerned that Camille may run Cameron off. And Camille says to her, look, you know who I am, girl. I'm a mess. So if he can be run off that easily, maybe he won't be the one. And I agree and don't. I understand what Camille is coming off of, especially if Zadia plans to continue having her life. That's going to be somebody you're going to have to be around, honey. But I also understand where, Zadia's like, look, don't mess with my possibility of love. Like, girl, please. So in comes Cameron and he sits down. He's his joyous self, honey. And still wearing that chain. What's with that Birdman chain? Anyway, he is talking with them, and all of a sudden he says, it smells really good. He's talking about the coffee. And he proceeds to say that the coffee smells really good. And Zadia proceeds to give him her cup. He smells it, and she takes off the cup top to say, like, hey, I'm going to give you some of this. And Camille goes, we're already exchanging coffee. She's like, so if y'all exchanging coffee, have y'all kissed yet? And she said, oh, and if y'all haven't kissed yet and he's tasting your coffee, has he tasted anything else? Girl, this was a full mess. I expected nothing less from Camille, but it did make for some comedic banter. Cameron's a little thrown, but he's rolling with the punches. He said he's tough. He can handle it, and he's good. So Camille pulls out her notebook in her dramatic fashion. Although, hey, you got to write questions down. And honestly, this was a chance for people that were around them to dive deeper into that situation, because honestly, when they've been on dates, sometimes you can get caught up in that halo effect of like all of the beauty that's happening when you like somebody and not ask the questions that need to be asked. So Camille's gonna be Camille, and she basically asked him, like, what does he do for a living? What are his plans? How does he feel about their relationship? And so he gives very positive answers, and he says he knows how to roll with the punches. He tells her that he's a doctor. She says, oh, so you're very busy. And I know what Camille was not very busy doing, getting her hair done, honey, because that wig was a mess. I know y'all saw that. It was a mess. I don't know what was happening there. It was like she slapped on an old wig or maybe had something and tried to revive it and it didn't work. It looked like a little Sharpay. I didn't know what was happening on her head. I didn't know. It was a synthetic mess. I did not see that coming. I was like, what happened to the wet and wavy from DC, Camille? We could have really used that. So Camille continues to ask him questions about business in his life. And he tells her, as far as where he is in life in his business, he has like another year where he wants to set some things up, but he definitely is interested in being in a serious relationship with Zadia. He could definitely see them lasting past the bubble of the show. And then she says, are you open to possibly living somewhere else? Now he says that basically he's from Omaha and he's lived other places, but he personally does not see himself living outside of the South. He is happy with it. He lived in Omaha. He doesn't want to go back to living in like cold weather climates, and he has no real desire to move back up north. And honey, I have to co-sign with that. As a up north girl myself that moved to the South, I no longer live in the deep South, but I'm just saying I honestly can understand that. Like once you get over that four season situation, snow is beautiful, love it, love it, love it, love it. But when I tell you it's a no-go for me as well, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. I love to visit, but I don't like to stay. So I completely understood where he was coming from. I don't like super duper hot. And Zadia says that New Orleans is not necessarily, something that's complimentary to her as well, honey. It's too much sweating. Okay. She likes to sweat working out. She don't like to sweat just walking down the street. And I have to agree, Nola can get wet. So she's like, look, I hear what Camille and I see what Camille is doing. And I understand where she's coming from because honestly, I want somebody who's going to be open to compromise. Because Camille keeps pushing the whole DC thing. And she says, I really want to make sure that the person I'm with is open to that. And I have to agree. I hope that her and Cameron can work because they definitely seem to have chemistry. But I think he does have to be open to the fact that she may not want to necessarily live in New Orleans. And as long as he's open to that, I think him and Zadia will be fine if this is their real only issue. Because there's so many places in between that they could possibly go. Next up, we got the H-Town hottie Liz, and she is here for Venetia. And I love to see this. Liz has such a good spirit and energy when she was on Ready to Love Houston, despite the mess with Jason. But Venetia and her have become very close friends. I have seen Venetia's IG and Liz's IG, and they are really friends in real life and very supportive of each other. Very positive messaging all the time between the two. I love them. And so Liz seems to be there specifically to ask some really thoughtful questions. Venetia says she trusts her approach, and it is important that she gets a little bit more from Jabari. He's pretty much been her person the whole time, and she's hoping that this should go relatively well. And I thought Liz asked really great questions. She asked him his thoughts on success and his expectations on relationships. Jabari says that he knows he's going to answer pretty decently because he's going to be honest and be himself, but he also understands the narrative of good cop, bad cop, and he's completely equipped for it. So the first few questions that Liz asked, he completely understands. She asked him about his success, and he says he has no problem with the woman who's successful and who pursues her career and her goals, as long as she knows when she comes home how to turn that off. He says he just feels like at home is at home and that you're not in charge at home. And that he's totally down with her pursuits as long as she knows how to just like turn it down. And that's kind of a tough thing that Venetia kind of said she understood that, and she even expressed that in like I think a episode before about how she can turn that off. But she does admit that as a type A personality and somebody that is like a hustler and is really serious about business, it can be difficult to bring that down. And he said, we can work around that type of stuff. But when Liz asked him the question about lifestyle, that's definitely where I don't know that it was a red flag, but it was definitely a yellow caution sign about whether or not this would work because their lifestyles could be vastly different. Liz points out that Venetia goes to a lot of events and she goes to a lot of engagements where she has to be present. And again, if you look at her, if you ever seen her IG, you see that she does a lot of business events. She also does a lot of events for her salon, but she supports her friends a lot. She sees that she's always at the club, honey, always at an event, always at a night out. And that could be a lot for anybody. And I think that that is really important that if you are married to someone that you have a similar lifestyle or that you appreciate or can accept their lifestyle because it will make a vast difference when it comes to, how well your relationship will work out. And, if you're constantly in the club, it could be a difficult thing. I do, however, feel like when you are with somebody, you have to figure out what the balance is going to be now that that new thing is in your life. You can't, be asking God for a man. You can't be looking for a man, pursuing a guy, and then you don't know how to slow down a little bit to nurture that relationship. So I think Venetia would have to find balance no matter who she's with Jabari explains that, look, he's a homebody. He's normally in the bed, he's not completely a homebody. Like, he did say he was sociable, but he just said that he's normally in the bed around 9 or 10 on a weeknight because that's, he has to go to work in the morning. And he said he normally, the women that he's been with have also been in the bed. And so you can tell that that kind of disrupted the conversation a little bit, not in a negative way, but it's something that she has to now look out for. And that can be something that is very, like, very different when two people have, a different lifestyle. Although I will say I have known people who are able to balance this out. I had a coworker, he was very, very, very outgoing, and his wife was really a homebody. He used to go to work events, he used to go to other things. And this is before I started working with him. And I started working with him maybe like 15, I don't know how many years ago we were working together. And we were very young at the time, me and a few coworkers, and he was always like, he would be at all the stuff that we would be at. We were like, what he out here doing? And this man was like 45 at the time. And we were like, yo, what he out here at the club on a weeknight? Should he be home? And so what we ended up finding out from our coworkers that were his same age at the time was that, he was just a guy who liked going out, and his wife accepted that. He wouldn't be out here talking to no different women. He wasn't out here pursuing no young girls. His wife just liked staying at home. The other coworkers had met her years and years ago. She had always expressed that. They said he was very respectful. He just was an outgoing person, and she accepted that about him, and he accepted that about her, that she liked being at home. And as long as they didn't disrespect each other in the process, it was all good. So hey, if it works for you, it works for you. Now here comes Sharice Honey with the twist. Now Sharice would have gotten along with the guy because she had really rubbed a lot of the girls the wrong way on her season. But I really like that her and LJ have become really cool. LJ was one of my favorite people from the season that she was on when they were in Miami, because I really feel like LJ was, he kind of kept it pretty honest and real most of the time, and maybe a little too real when he brought his ex-girlfriend to that date. But I did love that he told Ready to Love, honey, I ain't got time to play with y'all schedule. I got a work event. And I really don't have time to play with my real coins for the couple of weeks of just shooting this show. So I always appreciated that about LJ. And his energy seemed very cool and down to earth. Anyway, LJ is in the house to meet Keith. Keith is the guy that she moved on with from Eric Adams. And, as we know, Keith was very handsome. He was a chocolate zaddy. And from what we remember about Keith, he was very down to earth. And that's the energy that LJ gets from him when he meets him. Keith is very honest and down to earth. And that's one of the things that LJ finds out about him. He said that he feels like he's a very straightforward guy. He's very clear about what he wants. Then LJ asked him, hey, how do you feel about travel? Because Sharice is really big on travel. And, Keith is honest and says that he's kind of a homebody. And he points out that, for like the last 25 years or so, he's been focusing on raising his son. And he took his first solo trip last year for the first time in November to Dallas. And Sharice automatically frowns up like, ugh, Dallas is so local. And I'm like, Sharice, shut up. Girl, the man has a lot of positivity that you liked about him from the previous situation, including the fact that he is fine. He clearly was a good parent because he took care of his kid, but he just maybe hasn't been everywhere. And, LJ can sense that bothers Sharice. So he then asked him, like, what does he like to do? Is he an adventurous person? Because Sharice likes to do, certain things for adventure and, excitement. And he says, he's kind of a homebody. He tries to keep it calm. He likes to go out to go for walks, eat ice cream. And Sharice's face is like, dear God, we're not in our 80s yet. And I completely understand what she's saying in some respects, but very much like how Tamika said at the end of this episode, I felt like at the moment of this, whereas that you really can adjust that about somebody. I think it is important to know it up front. And if they have vastly different ideas about travel, then that might be an issue. But if it is something where he just hasn't experienced enough, this is a great place in your relationship to be a guide for somebody else. To be somebody that's like, hey, I just got my passport, or you just, let's get you a passport and let's try to do small trips so we can lead up to something bigger. If a person could be afraid, that could be one thing. Or just to find different, avenues. Maybe you can go on a cruise instead of a plane at first. Or maybe he just hasn't had the person that's been able to want to do that with. You don't know who his previous people have been. Have they been people who haven't thought about traveling outside of the world or in the globe and doing different things? So I think it's really, really dope that we got to see how honest he was. He seemed very straightforward and be very clear about who he was. But I want people to stop having this sort of passport. I don't know what you would call it, but I think like just like some sort of passport discrimination we got going on right now. A lot of people I'm hearing talk about this maybe 10, 15 years ago didn't even have their own international passport. Maybe even 5 years ago. Now you see people online saying that that's a demand for somebody. First of all, Not everybody should travel together. Number two, give people grace that they have just gotten their travel things. I know I've had my passport for quite a few years. Um, I think at this point, what, more than 10 years or plus. And some people have had to get them for work. Like they've been traveling, you've been doing stuff for work and things like that. But if you haven't been doing that, if you haven't had a diplomatic passport or some other passport that you've had that's been able to put you around the world, give people grace to the fact that they're learning about travel, that the world is opening up in a different and new place, especially for Black folks. And it's nice to be able to travel and do different things and pursue things, but you can do amazing things domestically too. You can do amazing things internationally. But this whole we need to hit all 40 countries thing, calm down, be easy. You do have time, you want to go soon, and also learn how to solo travel because your spouse may not want to go every place with you. Learn to travel with girlfriends or learn to travel with travel groups because you may not always be able to go with your significant other. And you do need to learn how to enjoy your own company and navigate the world on your own as well. So it's important that we have some balance in the travel conversation a little bit more and stop trying to travel shame folks because it's very corny. Child, so now it's Ashley and Stormy. And, Ashley says she trusts Stormy because she knows what she went through in the season that they were on. They were obviously on the very first season of Ready to Love in Atlanta. And she said that Stormy saw firsthand how things went down with Alex. And she thinks that she'll be the person that be helpful to make a right decision on. Now, Ashley ends up coming in and, she has on this like, studded bustier honey from the beauty supply store. And she got on these these black jeans that are faded, like a bell-bottom jeans, like a rip thing. I don't know. Ashley's style, it just jumps for me sometimes. Sometimes it looks amazingly good. Sometimes it looks like, girl, what the hell is this? Stormy shows up and she knows she's in her baddie finest or whatever. And it obviously turned into something that was very uncomfortable for both women. It turned into something that, was very probably a little uncomfortable for us to watch. And it has some controversy attached. Let's just get right into it, okay? Okay, so Miss Stormy shows up looking very, very, very fly. The boobies are a little bit out because she got a little split in the shirt. But for the most part, she's dressed very cute. And Ashley does not like this. Ashley felt like she was overdressed for the purposes of the date, which was for her to go ahead and, talk with Kirsten and see if he was the right person for her and see if he was the right person that Ashley should be focusing on as her keeper. Now, let's get into what the controversy that happened before we get into the actual. Well, no, let's talk about the date for a little bit. So Kirsten shows up. He gives us some ridiculous speech about whatever's going on and why he's there. And then he shows up. I have to say this though, as I'm looking at the scenes with her and Kirsten, it just feels like they threw him in here, but it gives actor energy. Even when you now think about how they were introduced, the date feels phony to me. And it felt extremely phony when it ended. So Kirsten sits down, they start having conversation. Stormy starts talking to him, about pursuing Ashley, and Ashley's still kind of pissed about what she's wearing. And you know what it reminded me of in that moment? And I tried to show this on the screen, but I don't know if y'all remember on TikTok a couple of weeks back, there was a young lady who went to her friend's birthday party and she was dressed in a Mugler jumpsuit. And she posted a repost of her friend saying that she felt like she was overdressed. She tried to outshine her on her birthday. Now, unfortunately, the young lady in the orange dress that got reposted by people on TikTok was not actually the birthday girl. She was another girl that was at the event that had nothing to do with this girl's situation. We never actually saw who the birthday girl was, or if this girl in fact outdressed her. But the girl that wore the jumpsuit reposted a message from her friend that said, I feel like you tried to outdress me on my birthday. Now, I'm going to say this about the whole whether Stormy was, too dressed for the event. I think that there's got to be a conversation around when you are a stylist person, meaning that you cannot be outdressed for things if you're not showing up as a basic. I don't understand the conversation around this. Like, when you have a friend that's extra, when you have a friend that's going to put on, you have a friend that's going to step. Okay. And so if you're comfortable with who you are and your personal style, that's how it works. Your friend gonna be showing up like Glenda the Good Witch, honey. You're gonna be showing up regular and degular. And you're fine with that because you're confident in who you are and your personal style. That person is over the top and they're gonna always be extra. And you appreciate that about them because there's obviously other qualities of them as a friend that you like, and they have shown you to be a solid individual despite the flamboyance of everything. So I don't know that anybody can outdress you unless you don't like your personal style, unless you don't put effort into how you look. and unless you don't feel confident about who you are. Now, you don't really hear these kind of complaints from people who show up like babbies wherever they go, and their friends also show up like that. And I don't care what age you are, there are always going to be somebody who has a little bit more bedazzle on their jacket than you do. And if you don't get some confidence about yourself early on to say, like, hey, no matter where I go, if it's my event or my birthday, I'm going to shine no matter what, then nobody can outdo you on your birthday. But if you only put a little bit of effort in, if you only put like a little cute dress and a little lip gloss on, yes, the girl who has her face fully beat, that has the outfit on, is going to possibly get a little bit more attention. Now, if you're a confident person that loves what you had on with your little lip gloss and your top, you're good to go, you're fine. But if you're not, if you really wanted to do the bad beat, then do the bad beat or get somebody else to do it. But don't diminish the other person because you're not comfortable with the fact that you didn't put in effort to make yourself shine. Because people are going to be who they are, honey. Nobody can outdress you if you already are outdressing in general. That's just my feeling on it. People are going to feel differently about it. I do think that if you don't want people to wear certain things, you have to imply a dress code for situations. But even in that dress code, when you're insecure, even if she had on jeans, if the jeans and top was cuter than yours, you'd have a problem with it. Anyway, so let's move on from that. I think Stormy was dressed fine for the event, and apparently that's how Ready to Love wanted it. So what ended up happening was after the controversy went down, Stormy did come back after this episode aired, and she did express some things in a Ready to Love um like TV show group. I think it was on Instagram or Facebook. And she basically made a post after the episode aired. She said, I didn't even know why or who I or why or who I was there for until I entered the door to the house. Ashley and I are cool, but we are not close friends. And why did I tell y'all that I felt like that was the case throughout the episode? When all those women walked in, Ashley did not run over to Stormy in the exact same way that everybody else ran over to everybody else. So it was awkward finding out why I was there, but we played it along. I dressed like that because they said that we were going to dinner, not to a barbecue. Honey, why is she basically implying that Ashley was dressed for a barbecue? And she really was. It really was your cousin's 40th at the backyard. I was all there for her and asked the man a lot of questions. And then we had a good 20-minute debrief after the shoot with her regarding why I thought that he was not genuinely interested. I've been saying this since the last episode, something about Kirsten Gibbs. I'm just not that into you, but I'm gonna ride this out. I had to leave immediately after filming because I was booked. And Stormy is a DJ. She DJs internationally. She's very successful at what she does. I genuinely think that this was just a setup. I was saddened to see how this was twisted and then edited to make me look like this. I did ask if he had a brother because his conversations about her lacked any type of interest. So I had to make a convo. It was my fault for saying it, but there were several things that I debriefed her on regarding her lack of genuine connection to her throughout the date. So I was trying to make small talk. I'm a grown, positive woman and will take this lick because they edited all of this to make it look like something that it wasn't. I was never told how she supposedly felt until I was invited to the reunion months later and shown a clip of 60 seconds before entering the reunion taping set. I would never do this to someone. Now, I have to say, this is one of the things I don't care for with Ready to Love. And I know we all did not really care so much for Janelle's energy, but she wasn't completely lying because she's not the first person that mentioned that Ready to Love, you trying to play people. I just knew something about their energy and their chemistry felt off to me, like with her and Ashley, like it wasn't really there. So obviously, as this day goes on, we see Ashley get more and more frustrated with the fact that Kirsten and Stormy are having this conversation and she's not asking him a lot of questions about that. We now know that Stormy is saying she did, in fact, have a lot of questions in between, but how they edited it was that they never even talked about Ashley. At that point, Ashley gets pissed off. She gets up and she goes and breaks the fourth wall and goes and talks to production. And she basically states that she's not here for this. She's pissed off. Kirsten stops talking. Stormy and him are just sitting there. She's telling production, like, they're not even asking me questions about me. It just felt like a complete setup. It was like a dramatic setup that was really, really weird. And it also just threw the episode off completely. I feel bad for Ashley in this moment. At the end of the day, she's one of my favorite people on the show. And I really do hope she finds love. But I also feel like they did set Stormy up. And honestly, kind of Kirsten, I'm wondering where or who is responsible for this in production, because they really need to have a sit down and possibly not work for Ready to Love again. Child, let's move on because this was a full mess. So Tamika's still on this vibe of trying to hook these ladies up in these blind dates, honey. And it's just getting weird to me. I didn't even know that this blind date was going to happen. And we've already ended off in this very weird energy with Ashley and Stormy and the whole Kirsten situation. So I guess they're just trying to move directly from that. And it was wild. It was weird. We moved on and we see Zadia storming down the block, honey, like she was going to try out for Sierra video. I didn't know what was going on with this outfit. I wanted to love it. I did not completely enjoy it. I like the hat. I love the wavy hair. It just definitely get that she was trying to be an extra in the old video from years ago. I wasn't sure what was happening here, but what I am sure of is that why does Tamika keep sending her on these dates? Y'all, I've been saying this for two episodes now. Why does she keep sending anxiety on these dates when this lady is only really zoned in on Cameron? She's done. She's pound her person. She got her picker is also her keeper. I don't know what to say. Like she's done with the picks, but they still messing around. They put her on this date, and they put her on this date with this young man named Dylan. He has a weirdly deep, awkward voice because sounds like he's coming right out of puberty. And I think he's 36. He's also in education, and I've been saying this too for every episode since episode one. What's going on with the men in NOLA in the education system? Because every time y'all hear every one of my recaps, I keep saying, are y'all not dating the brothers that are getting the EDs? Are y'all not? We didn't have a principal, a superintendent, we didn't have a gym teacher, the school therapist. Everybody done been on this show. I don't know if they just picking everybody from the New Orleans public school district. Y'all let me know. And when I tell y'all they couldn't be more mismatched, I don't know. He looked like he was going to a city council meeting. Again, she looked like she was going to try to see if she could become a backup in a Rick Ross video. It did not make sense to me why they were sitting down. They were completely unmatched in both age and interest. The only thing that they had in common was that Dylan had lived in DC and lived in New York. He felt like DC was a very walkable city. Completely agree. So is New York City. DC much more. He is absolutely right. And they just didn't have a lot in common. At one point, Zadia even asked the man to guess her age, and he sat there and said, "My mama told me not to guess nobody's age." We did not care. Zadia cared less. She really is just interested in Cameron. Tamika is continuing to hook her up with these people. When I tell you they mentally checked out, I was mentally checked out. Let's continue. And so we back at Sharice, honey. She's in her Fenty fit and she's headed into back door of some location, honey. And she is telling us about how, she's gotten used to the blind date. She's getting a little bit more comfortable with them and confident in the blind date scenario and situation. And she realizes that part of it is about lowering your expectations so that you don't get too frustrated too quickly if something doesn't work out. It's actually a pretty healthy perspective, especially in the dating process in general. Kind of just leaning back, learning to enjoy yourself and enjoy the night out or enjoy the event or the thing that you're doing and getting to know the person and not putting so many expectations on it that you're completely disappointed when it doesn't turn out to what you want it to be. And that's certainly the way that, Sharice is headed forward with this new date. His name is Mizell. Very nice looking man. He's 56 and he has invited her to a dance class. They're about to, ain't no lie, buy it, honey. They're about to, and this is hip hop. And, without any sort of break in it, the young man comes out, says 5, 6, 7, 8 is giving Debbie Allen fame, is very much giving that they haven't met each other that long, but they clearly have a nice little chemistry. He's a nice looking guy. They're dancing. They're having a good time. And Sharice generally loves that, she's having an intimate moment with some very early on, which she didn't really get with Mayor Eric Adams. She says that, dancing is a very intimate situation. And that it allows you to connect with someone very quickly. She's enjoying the dance moves. He's got a little bit of rhythm and some shaking them hips, honey. He also works in the education system. I'm starting to wonder if there's like a F-boy syndrome situation going on through the men in education in Louisiana, and that's why they're all single. I don't know. We need to know. Somebody that lives in NOLA, drop down in the comments and let us know. But again, they're definitely dressed for two different places. Sharice has on a workout outfit with, Louis Vuitton hoops on, and he has on an outfit that looks like he just came from the school. But it was a cool and unique way of getting to know each other. They have a little bit of conversation after the dance. Mizell says that he's a very super simple guy, leads a regular life, him and his dog. She says, "Oh my God, I have a dog." He says, "My dog's name is Ranger." She says, "My dog's name is Lola." He's like, "Do you like coffee?" "I like coffee." "Do you like cars?" "I like cars." It was one of those back and forth kind of things. And they start talking about astrology signs and do you believe in that? Now, I'm one of those people that I'm a little thrown off with astrology. I definitely believe in like some alignment with certain things, but sometimes I feel like those horoscopes and stuff be off. Y'all let me know. Y'all into astrology, love signs? Do y'all think that astrology helps in pursuit of love and life? Have you found those things to line up in your own life? Drop down in the comments and let me know. And he basically says, like, what are you? What's your sign? And she says, I'm a Leo. He says, I'm a Pisces. And she said, oh, your water could put out my fire. I thought that was kind of cute. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it was he's definitely a little bit spicy. He's got a little tattoo arm sleeve there. So, it's got a little toughness to it. I definitely liked him. He had a lot of class, slight little edge that you want, but he seemed like a solid dude. I hope that he's in Sharice's Ben, especially because we're not really sure how it's going to work out with her and the Keith, since she learned the stuff about the travel. So we'll see. But I like these two better than Eric Adams, honey. I'll take anybody. The janitor will work out as well. So speaking of the blind dates, we have Venetia up next, honey. And why is Venetia being hooked up with a man named Tabari while she's already got a man at home named Jabari? So I don't know how this even happened in all of the possible pursuits of finding single individuals to find two men who have these matching names. I've actually never met a man named Tabari in my entire life. He is not cute to me, but he is interesting enough for them to put on the show to try to compete with Jabari. And they are at a perfume making date. I have been wanting to do one of these for a while. I have seen tons of places near me that have popped up with this. And I really want to go do this because I've done candle making. It is so fun. And it's just a unique date. And because you have so many steps in between, you get to communicate with the other person. I went with one of my best friends, but it was still a good, unique, fun time. The candle came out well, and it was really beautiful. And it just was something fun and different to do. So I always like fun dates like that. Y'all know that from how many times I talk about this. But I think it's a great change, and it allows you again to talk with somebody in the process while you're doing it, instead of like me and maybe someplace that's loud like a movie theater. So we meet Tabari, and you know, he's 48, I believe. I don't know. He's definitely animated. He starts talking to her. They start having conversation about, what does he like to have fun? And he says he loves to do all types of stuff. Bernicia says she definitely is a girl, likes to have fun and likes to go out. She likes to enjoy herself. He says, yes, I'm into, always having a good time. And she said, is that all you're into? And he says, no, I'm serious. She says, so what do you do? For a living, like what are you into? And he says that he's a real estate agent. And I'm always really interested when I meet people who are realtors, because realty can be an up and down situation in terms of income. um, you see people have great years, and then when the real estate market is down, sometimes they'll have bad years. Now, if they're a really great realtor, even if it's a bad year, they will still hustle out to, positive um, income. But there are people who have years where they make really good money, and then sometimes they're very low, and it can balance out like crazy. I remember seeing a woman's taxes one time, and she had made $150,000 one year, and honey, the next year she had made 25,000. But her husband had a really stable job, and so that's what kept them afloat. But it can be a tough market out there if you're not a hustler. So she asked him, is that all you do? And he said no. I forgot what he said he had two other jobs. But I don't know about y'all. Did he feel like he was lying a little bit? I think he said he was a restaurant manager. And he also owned a radio station. And I was like, is that a YouTube channel? I love YouTube. I'm on it. So I'm not disrespecting it. But are we talking about that? Or do you own like a radio station, like on an app? Like, I wanted to know more about that, because that felt off to me, that for somebody that would have a substantial business, maybe possibly like a radio station, that you would then be a manager at a restaurant, not the owner. And that you would also be a real estate agent and not a broker. Every time he kept telling her a job, I don't know if you noticed this, but his eyes kept moving up and to the left, and it gave I am lying. I don't know. Just something about him feels non-trustworthy. And those three pursuits made me feel like he was just saying things that he thought could keep her and clip her on. And it did work, because she was so excited he was an entrepreneur. And I was like, girl, I think he's entrepreneur. But I hate it. He was, talking with her. They're having conversations about pursuing their dreams and how you feel about a woman that's, out being a go-getter. And he said he loves that about her. I don't know. I just like Jabari better. Jabari feels more honest to me about who he is and what he's about. I do understand, I'm sorry, Vern's worry about the lifestyle thing. And that is something they would have to talk in depth. But at least he was more clear. He had the real one job. He has children. Everything about Tabari seems like he's just trying to press Vernisha. And I just didn't trust that for some particular reason. Um, I don't know. They seem to have chemistry. She liked that he was down to earth. She liked that he's jokey and fun. She liked that they had a similar like lifestyle. She said that she wasn't sure, if Jabari was the only person that she's now looking at because Tabari really gave her something to think about. And I was like, Venetia, you should only be thinking about when is the last time that, you did not like getting played, because everything about Tabari gives me Joelle energy. So a girl Ashley's up next, and at this point, I do believe that they have officially put her on an episode of Punked. So Ashley's out with Christopher. He is an insurance agent. Now, I actually did like Christopher and her personality. I thought they clicked very well. And they went on a painting date, and I thought this was very, very cute. It's fun. You paint by numbers, or you just give, they give you some paint, so you just paint whatever you want. It's just like a good time. And again, a very clean, cool activity that doesn't require you to do too much. So you really get to have a conversation with the person. They start having conversation with each other. It's very easy breezy. They even joke about nicknames. And he mentions that he got the nickname Box when he was in high school because his friend said he had like a little bit of a box head. Ashley made a little bit of jokey joke. And it's giving the same fun vibes that she kind of always gives him on dates. She's silly. He likes silly. He's silly. She likes it. It was very much what we've expected from Ashley's dates. So as they start talking, she does ask him about relationships. And she asked him, like, when's the last time he was in one? He says about 3-4 months ago. And that automatically, Scooby-Doo's Ashley. And she's like, wait a minute. So what do you mean 3-4 months ago? We got to go back on that. He's like, nah, but I'm over it now. She said, no, we need to back up. 3-4 months is kind of, it's kind of soon, player. Like, you just got back out. You don't think you need to be by yourself for a minute? And she says, well, how long was the relationship you were in? And he was like, it was about 3.5 years. And she's like, oh God, no. Just like, this is just, I don't understand why this keeps happening to me. Like, why would you put me on a date like this? Like, Tamika is really setting her up. I don't know what occurred or what happened that they're just not giving her quality dates. I think both of the men they hooked her up with so far on these dates, besides the very first guy, have been not great. And Ashley's like, look, she's not trying to be put on a date as anybody's like, rebound person. Like, maybe this man is just too early out in a relationship. She's already done that and she doesn't want to go back into that same situation. When I tell you times are hard, and I completely understood what Ashley was saying. Like, he seems like a nice guy, but he probably is not ready to love. And y'all shouldn't have scheduled this for me. Honey, I couldn't agree more. So we are back from these dates, honey, and Tamika is back with the ladies and their friends, and she has decided that she's going to sit down and figure out who was who and what was what and who liked who and who did not like who and where these people finally stand with their keepers once their friends have met them. She starts off with Zadia and Camille, and Camille's going to give us her full dramatic arc, honey. And she can't help but roll those eyes and be super extra. But Camille basically says that she does not feel Cameron as much for Zadia. She thinks that he doesn't necessarily prioritize her, and she's not sure if he is aligned with her in all the ways that he needs to be, spiritually, personally, professionally. She didn't get that. She says that she knows his idea is not going to agree and probably still date him anyway. But Camille says that she thinks that he's not completely fully fleshed out about where he stands with his business, and is that he going to be open to things that Zadia wants to do. And I agree and don't agree with Camille. I understand where she was coming from, because when she did ask him about the whole job thing, but I feel like he answered that well when he said that, he definitely still saw himself in a serious relationship with Zadia. He said that, he has some things that he wants to do with his business over the next couple of years to be unbusy, because that's what she was asking him. Are you too busy for a relationship? And he said, I'm definitely pursuing several things in my businesses, but within a year or so, I think I will have those things together to where I can have more time for that person. And she also brought up the New Orleans thing. I do think that is a big deal. It's clear that Zadia probably does not want to live in New Orleans, and I do agree that Cameron needs to be open to that. But I think he was open to discussion on that. I think he just doesn't want to live on the East Coast. And I can understand not wanting to live in the Northeast and saying, like, look, I don't have to live in Boston for us to be together. Zadia has moved from place to place to place, clearly. She lived in Atlanta, then Houston, then LA, whatever these different places that she says she lived everywhere before she got to DC. So it's clear that Zadia could probably move back to one of those places. Honey, they got enough wig glue everywhere. Zadia will be just fine. But, Camille's being extra because I think she just wants Zadia to be by her side. But girl, she's not trying to stay single forever. You have Cornelius and his corny self, and Zadia needs somebody else too. So Zadia needs to just do her thing. Her and Cameron just need to be upfront. Then we move on, and she basically talks to Liz and Vernisha about Jabari. And, Vernisha says her and Jabari always have a good time. They always have great conversation. He's very funny and a cool person. And Liz says that she felt the exact same way that they had talked about him before she got there. He matched up a lot, but the lifestyles question is where he kind of lost her on a little bit. She said, lifestyle is very important, honey. You want to make sure that the person that you with understands you and that you're equally yoked. And again, Liz's concern was just that you don't want somebody to stop your shine in your pursuit and what you're doing, because they're upset about the fact that they don't like the fact that you pursue things at different hours of the night or whatever, and you were doing all those before you got with this person. And it's really important to address these things early on, because you don't want it to be something that a resentment grows because the person just wasn't fully aware. And so that seems to be the area that Liz wasn't feeling, and she's not sure that Venetia's going to ever be that kind of homebody girl completely, or maybe even at all, honey. And she wants to make sure that her girl gets what she wants, because there is somebody that will match you on that. So that was her concern with the Jabari man. LJ says he likes Keith as they move on to Sharice. He's very down to earth. He seems like a cool guy. He's very clear. He's very clear about who he is, and that he thinks the simplicity that Keith has will complement Sharice's kind of fiery side and the part of her that's maybe not as simplistic and chill. However, he is concerned about the travel situation, because Sharice travels and she likes nice things. Basically, Sharice wanted to be bought some things. And that's something that Eric Adams was fully willing to give her, but he wasn't just going to talk to her in the process. And so they basically say that, Tamika says, well, we kind of been all saying, like, get out your comfort zone. If this man is a good man, like he sometimes just has to be let out of that way. And LJ even confirms it to me, what Tamika saying, by saying, like, a lot of times a man just, needs to be shown something different. It's not that, certain women bring out certain things in you. So maybe if you like open him up to travel, he'll become somebody that loves to travel and loves to do those kind of things. But sometimes we just got to be shown a different way. And I completely agree. We've already talked about travel in that type of situation. And, I think Sharice is open to seeing how, if that can turn into an amazing thing. Now, ugh, we get to the almost end, and they're talking to Ashley. And of course, Ashley is not there with anybody, because Stormy is not there, because Stormy could not join them, per Tamika, because it did not work out. Ashley basically says that, she starts to tell us rather that it did not work out with her and Stormy, because basically while she was trying to introduce her friend to this man to get to know her, she was trying to get a date for herself and maybe connecting with him too much. Of course, everybody's like, oh, girl, what happened? Like, it's starting to get a little weird in the room. Ashley pulls a dramatic fan out and says that she doesn't want to talk about this because it's uncomfortable. And then that's where the episode ends. Y'all tell me, how did y'all feel about this episode? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it interesting? Did you feel like it got a little phony in the end, in the middle? Of course, I did. It just shows you how the production works. And it kind of made it a little inauthentic for me, because they then can seem like they're going to continue on this whole Ashley Stormy train. And I really do think that they set that lady up. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.